London, December 1952. The city is shrouded in a lethal mist with an invisible menace prowling in the air. Residents continue about their normal lives, oblivious that every breath draws them closer to danger. This is the narrative of the Great Smog of London, an environmental disaster that killed thousands and altered the course of history. Stay with us as we unravel the circumstances that led to this calamity and its long-term influence on air quality legislation globally. Welcome to Silent Centuries, where we explore forgotten and crucial historical events. Don't forget to subscribe and click the notification bell to stay up to date on our latest videos. To understand the Great Smog of 1952, we must first consider the context of post-war London. The city was rebuilt following World War II, and coal was the primary fuel source for heating homes and powering enterprises. The air was already dense with pollution, but the cold weather in December made the issue worse. The winter of 1952 was especially harsh. As the temperature plummeted, Londoners burnt more coal to stay warm, emitting massive amounts of smoke and sulfur dioxide into the atmosphere. They had no idea how disastrous this would turn out to be. On December 5th, a high-pressure system descended over London, trapping pollutants near the ground. The mix of chilly air and fog produced a thick, yellowish haze that enveloped the city. Visibility fell to a few meters, bringing daily activity to a halt. The haze was so dense that public transportation was hampered, flights were cancelled, and ambulances struggled to reach those in need. The city was essentially paralyzed. As the haze continued, it began to have a devastating impact on the populace. Hospitals were overburdened with patients suffering from respiratory illnesses, and morgues battled to keep up with the increased number of deaths. It is estimated that over 4,000 people died in the first few days, with the death toll eventually reaching over 12,000. The most vulnerable people, including the elderly, children, and those with pre-existing health concerns, were impacted the hardest. The smog's impacts were severe and far-reaching. Living in London during the Great Smog was weird. The dense fog permeated homes, schools, and workplaces. People wore scarves and masks to cover their faces, but they provided little protection from the hazardous air. People were unable to find their way home, vehicles were abandoned on the streets, and accidents occurred as a result of poor visibility. It was a city in upheaval, trying to deal with an invisible killer. The composition of the Great Smog contributed to its lethality. Smoke from coal fires, industrial pollution, and fog combined to form a hazardous cocktail of contaminants. The chief causes were sulfur dioxide and particulate matter, which caused significant respiratory problems and other health consequences. The contaminants irritated the airways, causing coughing, shortness of breath, and, in severe cases, asphyxia. The pollution was an unseen killer, claiming life quietly and relentlessly. The government's early response was delayed and ineffective. Officials downplayed the seriousness of the situation, blaming the deaths on natural causes rather than smog. However, as the death toll increased, it became impossible to ignore the magnitude of the calamity. Public outcry and pressure from medical professionals eventually compelled the government to act. Investigations were started to determine the cause and impact of the pollution. Scientists and researchers began to investigate the pollution in depth. They observed that the combination of coal fire smoke, industrial emissions, and the unusual meteorological circumstances had resulted in a lethal mixture of contaminants. The main culprits were sulfur dioxide and particulate particles, which, when coupled with the fog, created a lethal cocktail. This scientific inquiry was critical in determining the link between air pollution and public health, providing the framework for future environmental policies. The Great Smog of 1952 was a wake-up call to both the public and the government. It prompted major reforms in environmental policies, including the Clean Air Act of 1956. This act sought to reduce air pollution by limiting coal combustion and encouraging the use of cleaner energy sources. The Clean Air Act was a watershed moment, establishing a standard for environmental protection not only in the United Kingdom, but around the world. It signaled the start of a global campaign for cleaner air and greater public health. The Great Smog of 1952 was a tragedy, but it also acted as a spur for reform. We continue to encounter difficulties connected to air pollution and climate change. The lessons from the pollution are more important than ever as we work to establish a sustainable future. It's a reminder that our actions have repercussions and that we need to be attentive in our efforts to protect the environment and public health. The Great Smog of London was a sad period in history, but it also inspired a push for cleaner air and greater health. As we close this episode, we invite you to consider the importance of environmental stewardship. If you found this video useful, please like, share, and subscribe to Silent Centuries for more in-depth looks at historical events that affected our world. Thank you for watching, and please remember to click the notification bell to stay up to date on our latest content. Together, we can learn from the past and work toward a brighter, cleaner future.